Okay guys, you're not going to see me on camera today because, you know, I haven't done my hair, but we're going to sew up the 206 Ladies Retro Gym Shorts. So here we have all the pieces cut and ready to go. This is the Knit 220 from the Material Girl Australia, and if you're chasing fabrics, all the details for those will be in the info down below. Okay, so first things first, we're just going to line up a front piece and a back piece with the right side of the fabric facing along the crotch seam and sew it together. Then the same with the other pair. Right, so this next bit's probably the fiddliest bit in the whole pattern. You want to take your front and back piece sewn together in the middle here with the wrong side facing up. Take your binding piece. You can see I've just pressed over one edge about 1 centimetre there. You want to take the edge that's not pressed over, and with the right side of the binding piece facing the wrong side of the pattern piece, we want to line up the very edge and pin it in place. The binding piece is a little bit shorter than the distance around here, so you have to just stretch it gently along as you go. Don't stretch it so much that it's going to pull your main pattern piece in and gather it up, but just enough so that it reaches the whole length around. So just like that, pulling it a little bit. So if it's a little bit uneven, so I had a little bit extra there, so it's a little bit uneven, I'm going to ease some back through here because I think this bit here might pull a little bit. So I'm just going to take it back along. And get a level of stretch through that corner that I'm happy with. And there you go. It's got some tension in it through here, but not so much that it's causing the main fabric to gather up. And then we sew that one on. Okay, so get your binding attached on both of your legs, and then we're on to finishing it off. I've got my sewing machine set up here with my twin needle on it, but you can do this with the zigzag stitch as well, whichever your preference is. And you can also use pins here, but I am not going to. I'll show you exactly how I do it. Okay, you've got your seam allowance that you've just serged towards your binding. Here's the edge that you ironed over before. So it's got the permanent crease in there, and then you just fold that over to just enough to cover your stitch line there. And then you just want to stitch along there. Take it easy, take it slowly, adjust it as you go. Making sure you feed it into your machine so you're not stretching it out and giving yourself a wobbly edge. So, take a few stitches. Something that often happens is when you get a knit into your machine and you've got it right at the start there, your feed dogs have a struggle pulling it through. So if you take a couple of stitches and then you grab a hold of your thread tails, you just give that a gentle pull and that'll get it moving through your machine for you. Just like that. And then you should be away. You just continue like that all the way around. Okay, so there you have it. Well done. Now you'll notice that despite having fed it through as gently as I could and pushing it in the way, there's still a little bit of a wobble. Can you see a little bit of a wobble in the seam there? I'm just going to take you over to the ironing board and show you how to fix that right up. Okay, so as I was saying, you can sometimes still get a bit of a wobble even if you've been really careful feeding your binding through the machine and not stretching it out. Most of the time it can be really easily pressed out, but you want to make sure you don't press the fabric out to match the length of the binding. What you want to do is steam the binding without pressing down on your iron so that it shrinks back in to where it should be for the fabric. So you want to make sure your fabric is nice and flat, the fabric on your main shorts. So you can see there, this fabric's nice and flat here, and we've got the wobble going along the edge where the binding is. Then you get your iron and you turn your steam up, hold it above the binding, but not pressing down on it, and give it a good steam. Right, and then you want to just ease the binding in to where your fabric's sitting, just like that with the steam. Then do it again and ease it in flat. Alright, once it's eased into the right length, you can then press it and give it a good steam. And then you've got a nice flat binding. And you just do that all the way around. Big steam, ease the binding back into the length that it needs to be. Steam again, ease it all in, and then give it a press. Alright, there we go. Now we've got a nice flat binding on the edge there. Alrighty. The next thing we want to do is sew the side seams. So you've got your back and front pieces joined together here with the binding around there. What we're going to do is join them up at the side seam. We need to overlap them by 2 centimetres. So you're going to fold your front around You can see I've measured across there 2 centimetres and just marked it with a pin. Just makes it easier to line up. And then you grab your back side here. Line the edge of your binding up with the 2 centimetre marks that you've made with your pins, all the way down. See that towards the bottom here, it'll curve away slightly from your 2 centimetre mark. And the binding, let's see, just wraps perfectly over the edge of the binding there, just like that. Then you want to pin those together, and then we'll head over to the sewing machine and sew them. Righto, well, we're just going to sew down the edge of this seam here, sewing the front to the back down the side. I'm going to use my twin needle for this, but you can use a zigzag stitch if you fancy, whatever works best. Just make sure you don't catch your crutch piece in the seam as you go. Right, there we go. Then, you see you've got some seam allowance left on the inside, and just trim that one off. All the way to the end. And then just repeat for your other leg. Now you've got your 2 legs sewn. You want to turn one inside out, like that. Put the one that's in the right way inside the inside out one. Just like that. Match up your crutch seams and sew around. Rightio, we're on the home stretch now. So we've got our shorts sewn up, we're just going to put the elastic in. I've sewn the elastic together, overlapped it by 2 centimetres and sewn it into a loop. I'm just going to divide that into 4. Just like that. And then I'm going to line those 4 points up with the centre front and the centre back, and then the side point is just behind the binding there, because the binding is slightly towards the front. So just get those lined up. Just lining the top of the elastic up with the top of the fabric of the main shorts. Okay, so when we sew this, we're going to stretch this out to match and just overlock along the top edge there. You might want to take your blade up so that you don't accidentally cut the edge of your elastic while you're doing this. Okay, so starting at the centre back. Get that lined up right under there. Take a few stitches to secure, and then we're going to be stretching the elastic out to match the back fabric. So just like that. Make sure you support it from the back here too, or else you put too much pressure on your needles and you'll break them. And just go right along the edge, just like that. Right, now we've got our elastic attached to the top. The next step is to fold it down like that, making sure the top edge of the elastic is firmly against the fabric. Clip or pin it in there to secure. Folding it down, making sure it's nice and firm. And you might want to put a few extras in there too. Makes it easier to keep it even on the way around. And then I'm just going to swap over machines and we'll top stitch that down. Alright, so here we go. We've got our elastic folded up against the edge there. This is another job for either your twin needle or your zigzag stitch. I'm using the twin needle. And then you just make sure it's pressed up against the edge and stretch your elastic out to meet your fabric as you go. Again, make sure you're supporting it from the front and the back to make sure you're not putting undue pressure on your needles, because you do not want one of your needles to snap. I'm just using the edge of my plate here to let me know how far in I need to sew, but for different amounts you can just put a piece of tape on here to show you where you want the edge of your elastic to line up against. Makes it a bit easier. The other thing I do is I use my arm here that holds the fabric down against the edge. It's like having a third hand. There we go. There you have yourself a new pair of shorts.